What's up, guys? A lot of things to talk about today. I'm actually going to talk about Ukraine. I'm going to talk about the stock market, crypto going up. I'm also going to talk about the border stuff, the Mexican border stuff. I hit on this last time in last video. And I'm also going to talk about AI and my thoughts on it because I've played around with it a lot at this point. So for starters, and this is not to be insensitive to anybody that's in Ukraine or over in Eastern Europe or anything like that, or in Russia, I just don't know what's going on with that whole thing. And from my perspective, and I've, at various times I've tried to dig into this a little bit deeper, and at various times I'm a little bit perplexed because we never really see any Frontlines footage. And I don't know about you guys in the United States, other people in the United States, or other countries, maybe Canada, Australia, these different things. It kind of leaves us scratching our heads because with any war that we've ever really seen, at least you see like a bunch of tanks rolling in, you see a bunch of troops marching along, maybe alongside the tanks. You see some kind of footage. With this war, we really haven't seen hardly anything. And we've actually seen more footage of, the Ukrainian president, over here in the United States, getting billions of dollars and stuff like that. And I think that some of us are kind of scratching our heads. And I don't want to be insensitive to it. Like I'm saying, this could be a serious situation. So if you're in the Ukraine or have seen this or been on the front lines or personally know somebody that's one connection away, like your friend has been over there and they have said, yeah, it's bad. And I was on the front lines, and we were, whatever. We got in a firefight with Russian soldiers, or we got in a firefight, this, that, and the other. Let me know, because I really just don't know what's happening. I just really don't know what's happening. And there's been enough, like I said. And then I even went to YouTube, and I tried to look up Frontlines footage. And a lot of it was like kind of older footage that was taken from like a GoPro of supposedly soldiers going through the woods, and you couldn't see the enemy really, and maybe there was some shots that popped off, and then it was kind of like it was inconclusive. And then after that, you read in the comments, and it was saying, oh, this is like a compilation of like older footage, and it would be like an AI, like a robot talking. And it was inconclusive once again. So I haven't seen frontline footage. You guys let me know what is actually going on over there. Because every other war, we've seen at least tanks rolling in. We've seen fighter jets flying over. We don't ever see any footage of that pretty much on any news network here in the United States. And that's just where I'm coming from. So I guess, let me know from your perspective. Next topic, stock market and crypto going up. And I have a few thoughts on it. So for one, if people sold out, let's say last year, to basically lock in those losses for tax year 2022, some of the rebuys have potentially, taken place. And then I just think that with crypto in particular, partially, it has kind of went along with some of these, updates in the stock market at various different times. And so it's probably getting partial positive movement, partially because of that, because even on bad news days, like for instance, the SEC suing Gemini and Genesis, it still popped off pretty heavy. So maybe people retaking positions that they'd sold out of. Some of the sellers possibly exhausted. And then I don't really consider this trend that is going to continue. It seems like the S&P 500 this year has been up around 6 to 7%, and then crypto's been up, let's say 20-25%, kind of across the board. Let's just say like with Bitcoin and Ethereum and stuff like that. So I don't really see that trend continuing. I think people are going to maybe skim a little bit off the top, and then you have a lot of these liquidations that still have to happen from the miners who are in hot water, that are in deep trouble with their mining outfits, and with some of these bankruptcies, they have to liquidate different holdings and stuff. to go through those proceedings and stuff like that. And so whether that's going to be happening here soon or it's going to be happening in the future, hard to say, but I just personally just don't see this trend happening. So if you're in a situation where you need to take profits, you might want to think about doing that, because for Bitcoin to get up to 21,000, I was actually kind of surprised that it had that big of a bang, personally. So that being considered, depending on your strategy, you do what you're going to do, but there's a lot of signs out there as far as real estate's concerned, and as far as people's situation that is not very favorable. Now, in regards to the AI stuff, I've played around with it a lot. Was really impressed with some of the stuff that ChatGTP was able to do. And I was also very impressed with Midjourney as far as creating digital art. And in some respects, I was a little bit behind the boat with some of this stuff, because it kind of seems like people have been playing with some of the stuff for a few months, and then obviously this new, it's like version 4 of Midjourney, really kind of seemed to take it to another level. And I was honestly really blown away with some of the stuff it did. But I was actually, the longer I played with it, I was more blown away with what other people created based on the text that they had put in, but not knowing what they had in their head and what they were trying to do. It was just really, really, really good art. And the thing that it made me think was, man, like if you just graduated with like a computer graphics design degree, or whether you'd been in it for 10 years, 20 years, whatever it had been, I was just really kind of blown away, thinking, man, like this could be, I mean, I would almost like cry in some respects. But the longer I played with it, it was like, it became very, very hard to steer the AI in the direction that you wanted it to go to and I looked up a lot of advanced commands, and I'm still working with it to see if I can get the AI to steer more in the direction of what I'm thinking and what I'm trying to create. That being said, the art that it came up with was pretty mind-blowing. But I think that the name Midjourney is actually a really, really good name for it, because it is the middle of the journey in whatever you're trying to create. You have a concept in your mind, you type that in, this gets you closer to it. But if you had the ability to work with graphics and to do graphic design, it sped up the process and got you a lot closer to the finished product, or at least allowed you to come up with a lot of prototypes for clients. And I think this is the way it's going to be for the next couple years for a lot of this AI stuff, where it's a really, really great assistant. One of the things I've been using ChatGTP for is I will initially start to write a description, let's say a paragraph's worth of a description in like a YouTube video, for instance, in the description, and then I will have ChatGTP come up with another 1,000 words or so, because that's going to help out with YouTube algorithm, writing that all in the description. Not that somebody's necessarily going to read all that, but it is able to pick up and kind of work the SEO portion. Also with tags, I can have it say, okay, come up with 40 tags about cryptocurrency or something, especially when I'm in a hurry, and I can pump out those tags and pop that up. Also, with Midjourney, I can have it come up with a thumbnail for the videos, which is, it's always tough to roll this stuff out. So I feel like for content creators, knowing a lot of this AI stuff, you could really kind of like fill in the gaps and kind of do a lot of this monotonous work that needs to be kind of pumped out on that particular topic. And I feel like that's going to be, for the next couple years, that's going to be the situation. Same thing with self-driving cars. Obviously, there's some self-driving cars being rolled out on the Vegas Strip, and I guess in Arizona, in Tempe, where they're going to be testing some of these self-driving cars. So eventually, obviously, probably 5 years down the line, a lot of semis and a lot of that kind of stuff, these self-driving vehicles and stuff will replace that. Taxi drivers, all that stuff will replace it. And then same thing with a lot of these AIs, it'll get better and better and better. Another thing, just to go back to Midjourney, again, super impressed with what it was able to do, but a lot of times it would mess the words up. And I noticed that with other people's work. Like someone was trying to create a logo with a rat, like a raccoon, and it was really good art, really good stuff, and then it would say like raccoon, but it would only have like one O, but they spelled it right in their description. And I'm thinking in my mind, have they purposefully made it so that it messes up the words or kind of tweaks it and makes something nonsensical? And a lot of times you'll see that when it does a mock-up or something, it won't write anything that's actually readable. And from a kind of more of a distance where you can't read it, it's like, oh wow, this is really good. And then you zoom in, you're like, what's that supposed to say? So I thought that was odd. So it made it very hard to actually come out with a quote-unquote finished product on some of this stuff without getting in there, maybe in Photoshop, maybe, you know, in some other like GIMP or something like that, and like tweak or do a little bit extra and like kind of take it, that final 10%, or tweak it a little bit. So Midjourney, like I said, seemed like a really good name. Now, last topic, I wanted to talk about the border situation. I hit on this thing last time. So I guess Arizona, they're being mandated to take down some of the shipping containers that fortified the wall. You know, the wall was never finished. Trump was trying to finish the wall. There's all kinds of issues and stuff like that. He could not finish the wall. Now, what I want to say about this is I'm not really debating whether people should be able to come to the United States or shouldn't be able to come to the United States and go across the border and stuff like that. The way the laws are set up, there's, you know, you're supposed to go through the right channels, and there's certain immigration laws that have been voted for, or, you know, different bills that have went through and stuff like that. So there's thresholds for immigration that are supposed to be met, and certain criteria that's supposed to be met to let people in. So that is the word of the law. And then anything that they've tried to do to sort of uphold that, like putting up shipping containers and putting razor wire across the top so that people can't just flood across, and then it's being met with the federal government was telling Arizona to take that out, take the shipping containers out. All they try to do is just fortify the border. So I thought that was odd. It's very odd, but it goes to my theory that they're not going to come out and say they know the population has collapsed, and looking forward 10, 20 years, you know, obviously 10, and Social Security is going to be bankrupt. The Social Security Treasury thing is going to be, you know, it's going to be empty. So they know this to be the situation, and, you know, as a long-term play, I think that as a secondary reason, obviously they want to get voted back in and stuff like that, and they're going to try to get these votes. But the other secondary thing is we're losing population. Birth rates are collapsing faster than you think they are, and they're thinking we need the replacements. We need to bring in replacements and spur up some economic activity, because as time has went on, it's like if your population continues to grow, and then they keep rolling out military-industrial complex, you know, start some other war, or you know, with this latest scamdemic, you know, they roll out, you know, the medical industrial complex and roll this thing out, and it's constantly another excuse to print more money or to you know, kind of fictitiously create quote-unquote output. And now that being said, a lot of people they're going to come across, are they going to be a burden on the system, or are they going to be, you know, essentially, you know, at some point 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, do they get on their feet and they're contributing, and basically contributing more to, you know, the tax system than they're taking away from it? It's really hard to say. I can say this though, if they're starting out with zero, people are coming across with just the clothes on their back, be very, very, very hard to go from that and then to end up in a situation where you're able to provide for yourself and not just happen to basically rely on all these government programs and stuff. So that's just my thinking. But at the end of the day, I don't think that people realize, again, how our population is going to collapse. You're seeing it a lot kind of out in the Midwest, where a lot of these small towns and stuff like that, there's so many vacant properties, they're just going to end up turning into ghost towns at the end of the day. So, that is one thing. And there's not just in the Midwest, but various other small towns across the United States turning into ghost towns, where there might have been a family of 5-6 people living in a house, and now there's maybe one person, and if that person has to go into a care facility or something like that, then suddenly the home's vacated. They pass away or something, and then it's like the house is vacated, and then whether it makes sense for someone to want to move there and do all this additional work to fix it and stuff like that is sometimes they don't want to necessarily live there, and a lot of people are gravitating to these larger metro areas to begin with. So anyway, guys, what do you guys think about that? And I would love for someone to comment that has firsthand experience with the Ukrainian stuff. And again, I'm not trying to be insensitive. We just don't know what's going on. And I've just been scratching my head for months, being like, why don't we ever see any kind of footage? We don't see any jets flying over, footage of jets flying over. We don't see like tanks rolling in. We don't see anything. So anyway, what do you guys think? Follow me on all social media, at Brian Phobos, YouTube, Instagram, Steam, and Twitter, Hive, D2, Friendster, MySpace, everywhere. See ya.